Good morning. Thank you for joining the June 5th, 2018 VOLTA call. Today we will be going over a number of topics, starting off with Sprint 2 for VOLTA 2.0, and a reminder that the meeting is recorded and we will post this later to the VOLTA playlist on YouTube. So please keep that in mind during any discussions and presentations. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and start today's meeting. And Sean, did you want anything before I dive into the agenda?
I think we have Sahil from the Reliant here.
Yeah, hi Sean, and hi everyone. Me and Ajay, we joined today from RJIL.
Yeah, that's great. Sahil, I think there's a echo on that. Can you just do a quick introduction of yourself, and then we will have a separate call to introduce the VOLTA to your company later?
Yeah. So actually, we were introduced to this CORD and all project offerings by earlier some 1 or 2 months back when the ONF team was here in India. So so that's why we got interested, in knowing how the VOLTA community is progressing, and what all is there, and how it is progressing. So for that agenda and all, we can take that separately. But myself and Sahil, I'm working on all these kind of initiatives, basically on SD and NFP and all these evolving areas in Reliance. And I'm joined by Ajay with me.
Hi, Sean. Hi, everyone. I'm Ajay and taking care of the FTTX network here. This country largest deployment, and we are looking for this project to see like if can benefit us anyway. So all input to see like a survival project for us will be good.
Yeah, so we kind of evaluate on all those options and see with you once.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So if you can mute your side, so we can remove the echo. So I just want to let the community know we have been very actively engaging with the various service providers and companies, and so we have been invited them to come into the call. So I think Sahil and Ajay, I'm going to have set up a separate call with you and go through the project planning and some of the other stuff with you in a separate time frame. And we also have, as I said, the community. I just want the community to be aware. We do have more and more company service providers and industry partners are very interested in the VOLTA and potentially later on the SEBA project. So I think this is a very exciting time for the VOLTA project. So Julie, I'm going giving back your time so you can go through what we need to do. And then Sahil and Ajay, thank you for joining in. And then please listening, and then we will have a separate call to go further. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. All right, and with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started on the agenda. There is one change that came in this morning, so we have a new item to have for discussion as well, requested by Sean Misset, and so we will cover that today as well. So first, this is the final week in Sprint 2. I want to get an update on status for the in-progress items. And I think, Ken, I believe I saw you on, and
Yes.
I think last time we had checked the items that were in progress related to the the Twisted Python library for Kafka and the read-only core microservice. I think those were expected to complete, and then the two due items were subtasks that were likely going to be in sprint 3, but they inherit the target sprint from the owner, so that's why they're showing in the to-do column. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And another thing I want to mention is for 2.0, I believe there was some brief discussion about whether we're going to create a branch or put everything into master. Has there been a final decision on that? Because soon we'll have to submit some code. So where do we submit those code? And when? Because I know like 1.4 is going to be cut this week.
I think the target is this week.
This week.
So, Jono, do you have any comments there on 1.4 and the timing?
Yeah, the target is the end of this week.
I think it still doesn't answer Ken's question, right? So whether the code will go into the master after 1.4 is cut, or what would be additional concern? Ken, that was your question, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Like that, because if we start to put the first set of code is mostly libraries, so it won't affect anything. But once we start to remove components from the core, then this will start to affect people in the master branch. So it's like, do we want to go that way or just have a separate branch for 2.0?
I think the question is, what is the effect going to be, right? What is the impact to people who are using VOLTHA on master?
Pretty much like, for instance, things that are simple, like Xpawn will be removed from the core. So anybody that's using Xpawn, it won't work. And the global handler will be removed from the core. So anybody that's trying to use it won't work. So there will be a period of time where things will just not work if we start to submit code in the master branch.
That's always very scary.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes, right? Like that's the architecture of 2.0. So it's
right. But I think so the best practice is 1.4 will be cut, and and 1.4 will not have any additional fixes after it's cut, and then and people still want to play with 1.x, they can go by the 1.4 branch, right? And
yeah, I mean, it will be possible for us to make bug fixes to 1.4 if we want to. We'll make a branch at 1.4 and we can submit bug fixes to that if we want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Just make sure we do the due diligence for the cherry picking, right? Cherry picking.
Yeah.
And I think.
Yeah. Because I don't want to stop people doing development on the adapters, right? It's,
right.
Because if the master is broken, then they will have problem testing the adapters.
Chip, okay. Chip, do you have any comment regarding to how to do this branching thing?
Yeah,
I'm calling name now. I'm just calling the name.
That's fine. One way is to create a features branch for the core work and promote changes when the master is ready, and do that for other features as well that are going to be disruptive. It's just is it easy to set that up in Garrett and do reviews? I mean, it's going to be complex no matter what we do.
Ken, is that something? Is that okay? Yeah. So this is the first time I heard about feature branch. Is that something can be done?
What you can do is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. We should be able to create a branch in the Garrett. I don't know if we have the privilege for that, but we should be. If we can't, I'm sure like a journal has the privilege to create a branch.
Yeah, it's definitely possible to create branches.
Yeah, and then we can start to submit any 2.0 items there, and eventually we'll have to do a big merge. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the thing is that there are two approaches, right? One is that we do all these changes in master and accept the fact that things are going to be broken for some period of time, and hopefully we have an understanding of what the changes are, and we can kind of define how much time it will be broken for. We at least have some idea of that. And then the other approach is that we branch off, and all of this new development happens in a branch, but the problem with that approach is that it becomes difficult to, the master and this new branch diverge, and then it becomes difficult to merge them, potentially, depending on what the changes are.
Mm-hmm. But potentially the feature branch, once the feature branch is created, so all the new development, not just the core and all the like simulator and everything will be happening on the feature branch.
So then why not just use master, right?
They might just use that master, but it's just that.
I agree. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Just get it over with.
Don, that's not surprised. I hear you say that. Great. Anybody has, I think we don't have the TST committee formed yet. Anybody has any objection to rip the Band-Aid?
I think it would be nice to understand in more detail what the changes are and how much impact they will have. And I don't know, ideally, if we can, some kind of estimate of how long we think it will be until things are kind of working again.
Right. Well, those changes would be massive. So, if, for example, right, like if first step we just go and remove expand, for example. So anybody that relies on expand, it won't work, right?
Yeah. So that doesn't break OpenOLT.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct. Yes.
Right.
It will break the other adapters.
So I think the people active using, so Atran, are you guys active using the Expon?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I mean, if you remove Expon until we have device profiles, we won't have data traffic unless we start hard coding things, which can be acceptable.
And then the Girish, I think you're from the Redis Azure on, right? So, would that be a?
Yes, we do Expon.
You do Expon.
We do use Expon. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was mentioning if we did a feature branch.
It will break for us.
Feature would not be 2.0. A feature branch would be like remove Expon, and we could remove it there, and then people can, the adapters that it can adjust to it, get theirs working, and then promote those changes. I've not done that much promotion and rebasing and Git that before. I'm used to Perforce.
Yeah, the only thing with a separate feature branch is how many of those will we create, and after that merge. There's a number of features there, so it's would we have for each feature would we have a separate branch, or do we want just to have one branch for 2.0 and everything 2.0 for now just go there?
Yeah, that's hard to say.
Yeah. So, hi, this is Shad. So I sort of kind of reiterate what Jonas said earlier. Is if we have some sort of idea of how much rework is required in the adapter, we'll get a sense of do we want to rip the bandage, or do we want to do it incrementally, do it on a separate branch? So. So Ken, if we can have a sort of an engineering meeting where we get some sense of how much of a rewrite of the adapter it is once your changes merge in, and will the changes merge in incrementally or come in with in once big shot? if we get that kind of sense, I think we can take a decision.
Well, put it this way: when you're talking about the changes, you're talking about containerizing the adapters, right?
Yeah, containerizing adapters and the interface. So the core changes that you're doing are internal to you.
Exactly.
But yeah, but the containerization and the interface, the iAdapter interface.
Yeah. So in terms of changes that are required, there would be. I'm looking at this as in 2 steps. The very first, well, maybe 3 steps. The first step is I'm building that library that both the core and the adapters will be using. And the second step, I'm trying to keep that interface as is of what we have today in terms of the iAdapter, like what you see in the adapter interface. I'm trying to keep it as is. That's the second phase. So if I keep it as is, there won't be much changes done on the adapter side other than containerizing it. And the step 3 is to look at that interface and try to figure out, okay, which makes sense still and which ones should be ripped, and some features move into core or some features move into adapters. So it's a really 3 stages of work. So once the containerization starts, and I will try to keep that interface as is. So if I keep that interface as is, there shouldn't be a lot of work required in the adapters in that phase. But after that, once we look together, we look at that interface to say what makes sense and what not. Then potentially there can be a lot of changes in adapters.
Okay. Yeah, it's the changing of the interface, which is the big change that will disrupt everything, right?
Exactly.
So Ken, one way I see of working this out is a small group that is yourself and whoever from CNI is involved in this, and one person from each of the adapters, like from OpenVolt, from the ASF Volt and the AdTran, working closely on a separate branch for a very short time to integrate and working sort of in parallel, like as you're working as a team, and as you are developing the interface, we are adapting to it with, you know, and so that the master is not affected, the rest of VOLTHA is not affected, you know, and but this is a very short branch, a short-lived branch, and we're working together, and we're seeing we continuously you know, sort of developing this together, and then we bring it into master, you know. So as opposed to you going off and then either on a branch or in master, coming in and then everybody else have to reacting to it and everything broken on master. So I think that's one suggestion from my side is we making this as a coordinated effort on a separate branch, where we have dedicated resources from each adapter for a short period of time, where we get something working, and then we merge it to master.
Yeah, that will work for the containerization aspect of it. The other part of the core, which has nothing to do with containerization, like things like removing expand, for example, that's a separate thing. So those, once we remove them, adapters will be affected. So it's do we want to do those work on a separate branch, or at that time, once containerization is done, we just take off the bandit, and then it's time to rip off things in the core.
Yeah, so I think you're the best to suggest a sort of a phased approach for this. So I mean, it needn't be a big bandage rip. We could do it in some sort of logical phases, and if you can think of something that like Expawn can come in as a second phase. We do containerization first, and bring that in, and then I mean, and it's up to ASF Volt and AdTran chip to suggest to make a decision whether they're okay being broken for a while. So yeah, all my input is that if you can do this in a few phases, where and if you think there's logically that other members from the adapters can be involved closely working with you for certain phases, I for myself, I can free myself up to work full time in that integration.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely. That my approach was first containerization, like separate the core from the adapters, and then after that look at all the other changes required in each in the core. But first, if we can get the adapters separate in their own containers, that would be a very good move.
I think so too. That sounds like a good idea.
And then I think the decision point with removing Xpon is, do we do it before we have the technology profiles ready and accept that things will be broken for the existing adapters, or do we wait until after we have technology profiles? But then technology profiles will mean that there are probably quite a few changes that need to go into the core, which may conflict with the other refactoring that's going on in the core.
One thing that we could do, we could keep the Xpon as long as we can in the core until we have no choice but to repeat off. At this time, I don't know how long that would be, but we can try to do that.
Well, I think there's a general question of how does the technology profile work proceed given the core refactoring, right? Because there's a lot of stories that are related to technology profiles that will have impact on the core, and ideally that needs to be sort of congruent with the refactoring effort.
Yeah, that's kind of additive though, right? It's not, I don't think it affects like the Xpon, for instance.
But if we make a decision to branch, then this will be a huge point of divergence, right? So
well, yeah, but yeah. I mean, so I guess there's going to be conflict between what I guess Siena's working on and what other people are working on from the core perspective, potentially.
But in terms of the technology profile, are we gearing towards to have a separate container to manage profiles, or we are looking just as the core will just do a lookup in a database with the technology profile information every time it needs to send something down to the devices? Like, are we looking to a separate container or everything within the core?
I think the plan anyway, from my perspective, was everything was in the core. It was basically just adding additional capabilities to what's already there. I don't know if Jono or someone else has any other thoughts on that.
I think that was the plan that yeah, go ahead, Shad.
No, go ahead, John.
No, just saying, that was the original plan that Sean put together. But I know that in Siena's proposal for the 2.0 architecture, they did have a separate technology profile microservice. So it just seems like we should decide this up front, which way it gets done. And the other thing is figuring out how the technology profile values get into the adapters, right? Because this is different.
I think
whether they're containerized or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think the original proposal, I think once we had some discussions around it, I thought we were going to be just using an interface that already exists for etcd, and that's essentially our technology profile management. We just create those directly in the KB store, and there's no separate management of that. And the adapters can access that directly also.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sean, I think we should take a second look at the implementation design details of technology profile in light of the fact
tomorrow morning, right? The technology profile stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
In light of the
there's a meeting at 9:15 today, and there's another one tomorrow for OMCI.
Yeah, but I think that meeting is more for stories. I think we need a we need a design engineering meeting with Ken, where we take a second look at the details of technology profile implementation in light of the core changes that are happening, and see if there are other implementations of the technology profile. For example, a separate microservice, or the adapters, direct interface of adapters to HCD. Other approaches which would then we can go orthogonal with the core changes, so we're not affected by the core changes. I'm just saying we take a detailed look at the implementation design details in light of the core changes that are happening.
Yes, yeah. I mean, so there was one story where we noted that the access of the adapters to the profile from etcd may go through a separate microservice or something, right? Instead of going directly. But again, that would be a good place to work those issues out, I think. So when did you want to do that?
On our side, the person that is leading the technology profile side of things is really David Bainbridge, and he's out of the office this week while traveling. So it's if we want to have a meeting, ideally it would be better next week when he's available.
Okay.
Okay. So I have a question. Let me go back to the agenda. So if David's out until next week and he's needed for the discussion, I had tentatively put on for next Thursday, looking at a presentation from Ken on the plan changes for core in V2.0 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would be a good use of our time to try and have that technology profile discussion on the Thursday call next week? Or would a side meeting be better and maybe could be done sooner?
I will need to talk to David about it to figure out. Yeah, and on the Thursday call also, we are going to show the performance report that we have seen that we're writing for 1.3. So it will be part of that discussion too.
Great. Okay, so Thursday's going to be pretty busy next week, so probably we need to have a side meeting then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Sean and Ken, keep me posted then if you need some help setting something up, and then we'll proceed.
Okay. I mean, so we need to figure out who needs to be involved in that. I mean, so I'm assuming the Sienna, ONF, Radisys, and if anyone else wants to also be involved in that, I'll send an email out on VOLTHA Discuss, and then people can reply if they're interested in joining the meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. So I think that was a good discussion. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Julie. So I need to drop, and I may have to drop for the whole rest of the call. So maybe we could discuss about interfaces as technology profiles maybe next week. Okay.
Okay. So I'll move that on to next week then.
All right,
if there's anything that can happen over VOLTHA Discuss, feel free to kick off a topic there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sean.
Bye.
All right. So anything else on the discussion related to branching? And then they'll have a side meeting on the technology profile in light of the changes that'll be going on in core and how to coordinate efforts as needed. Anything else on that before we move on? Okay, then I think we'll go over to the active sprint. Let me just refresh again in case anything changed. And then Ken, we got the updates from you. I think next we'll go over the in-progress items. And Venkata, I believe I saw you on earlier. And 651, I believe you have some code ready for this, but there's been some issues in getting it submitted to Garrett, and you're working on Chip with Chip on that. Is that correct for this item?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that is correct.
So, Chip, is there anything that you know that we need to help with at this point, or are you and Venkata still just working that in the background and get around?
Yeah, he's working mostly on it. He's just having some initial how to get a Git review to run all the credentials and all that set up. So it's just slow going. So, but he's
is it could be like would it be related to anything to firewall, or maybe if I have to try it on another server, that might work?
But when we say credential, would that be something from his account privileges, or I think the Venkata was talking about maybe the firewall between the Austin lab and the ONF. Would that be actually the issue?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's what I wanted to know. So if that could be an issue.
But Chip, you're saying potentially some privilege issue, right?
I think it's just probably his Git configuration issue. We've been passing back some emails and slowly progressing to get things right. Now I think he's having some connectivity issues because it looks like he has the right port number and the right server names.
Okay, so maybe
if worse comes to worse, I can submit it for him if we just want to get it done.
Yeah, we would. I think maybe we can try both. Maybe something. Austin does have a more strict firewall definition on things, so let's see whether we can. Venkata, if that's potential firewall issue, let me see who from the ONF side can also help and work with the IT people in Austin to get that resolved.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Venkata and Chip. And then, so hopefully this one will end up making it into the sprint. The work's done, just needs to be reviewed and submitted and reviewed. Then Vol 506, this one is the multiple. I need to move my screen so I can see this. Sorry about that. This one is the multiple pawn multicast support. And do we have anyone who can give an update on this? I think we were expecting it to be rebased soon. I don't see Andy.
Andy's not, but Christos,
Okay.
do you know anybody worked on this one in the Nokia side? Okay,
so
let's
we'll
send an
follow
email
up
to Andy.
offline.
Yeah.
Okay, on that one. And then the next one, 743. This one,
this one is done.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move that one to done. Thank you.
So nice, you can just drop and.
I know. I was glad to hear that tip the other day. I did not know that before. Vol 702. This is an in. That's one from Chip, and I think you had an update in here. So Chip, I'll go ahead and let you give an update on this item.
Okay, yeah, that's the story I'm currently working on. So I've got all but the message pull up for the getDex command working and under test. And I'm hoping to have it in the state machine related to capabilities done probably by noon or tomorrow afternoon, unless things pop up.
Great, thank you for that. And then that, I think Don would be reviewing that material, is that right? When it's submitted?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Vol 813. And Kate, is Kate on?
Yes.
Yes, you are on. Okay, so I wanted to check on the status for 813. I think you are on track.
Yeah, I actually completed these tasks
Let me
So
move it.
please move it to the improve. So
Good.
down face.
Thank you. And then also, I'll take this opportunity to jump back to the agenda. And for this Thursday, we are hoping to have a brief demo of this new BB Sim for the first version here. So Kate is planning a short demo of that for Thursday. And so just pointing that out, we just moved that ticket over, thought it would be a good point to bring that up on the agenda. So Kate, looking forward to that.
Yes.
And then the next item. So Ken, I think we've already gone over your issues. So 688, this one is being worked on by Richard, but this one is on track as well.
Yes, it's on track. This may not complete in this sprint. It will span maybe 2 sprints.
Okay. Okay. So, and a heads up for folks, I am planning on Wednesday or Thursday, probably Wednesday, to create the placeholder for Sprint 3 so we can start allocating items as needed for that. Okay, and then the next item, 703. So this is, again, Chip, back to you. I think you had a comment here also.
Yeah, it's in the review now, so I'm waiting on comments or plus or minuses.
Okay, so let's go take a look here. And Don, do we still have you on the bridge? Yes, we do.
We do. Yes.
All right. So I think this item is up in Garrett for review. So if you could take a look at that, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm actually about 2/3 of the way through that.
Perfect. Wonderful.
You're the man.
Thank you.
3. And then the next item, 762. And this one, I don't know if Jonathan Davis is.
He's on vacation. I think that Nick just provided the update in the email, so you can read it offline.
Okay, so since I don't have email open at the moment, are we expecting this one?
Well, I can tell you, there's still some challenges on the driver.
Okay.
So the VOLTHA aspect of it's working, but anyway, there's a problem that they're still troubleshooting.
Okay, so this may or may not make it in this sprint.
Well, Jonathan's out for 2 weeks. So he's on vacation this week, and then next week he's working a game developer thing for our marketing group.
Okay, so we'll keep that one. I'll leave it in progress for now, and then we'll see what happens. And likely, it sounds like it will go over into Sprint 3.
So Don, when we say the driver issue, is that the driver on the OpenOOT, the H core?
I'd have to dig through my stuff. I mean, yes, it is actually. Never mind, I know that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Next item, 803, and this one, Ken, you be able to speak to this item?
Yeah, so this is wrapping up, so that should be done this week.
Great, good to hear. And then this is related to, if I go back on the agenda, to the planned readout next Thursday as well, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you give us some hint whether the result is good or acceptable or not acceptable?
Well, you'll figure it out. But the biggest thing is we're dealing with open source, so we have tons of open source components, and not all of them works well with each other. So it's been a struggle.
Well, okay, don't give us too big a surprise. Okay, Julie, we'll deal with that next week.
Okay. And then the next item, I believe this one was Venkata as well. So 812,
Yeah, this needs some work, so it will be moved to next sprint.
Okay, and I see that on here. So now you are working on it currently though, right? So I think it should stay in progress.
Yeah.
But I'll expect it to close out next sprint, not this sprint. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, okay.
849, this one is for Shad, OpenOLT Bell 2.6 support.
That's in progress. So yeah, it's there's some dependencies on there's issues that I'm facing, and I'm trying to resolve with Broadcom. So I don't have a timeline on this yet.
Okay.
Shad, is there a CSP number? Maybe you can share the CSP number on the status.
Yeah, I haven't raised a CSP. These private communications with Frank Demio, but he's asked me to raise a CSP, so I'm going to do it today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for that update. Next item, 868. This one is back to Chip. It looks like this one may be, is this one complete? Do we still have Chip on the bridge?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it might be complete.
That one's approved.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. So let me go ahead and move that one over to done as well. Let me find where I was now. Okay. And then the last item, I did want to make sure I moved this one to sprint 2. It was in progress and it looked like the Garrett change closed. I did have a quick question. Okay. So I'll go ahead and move that one to done. And it did sound like there were going to be some additional.
Yes. So basically this is the. Yeah. So pretty much this is the change that was requested last week about allowing like individual add and remove of flows. So this change, I put that in the core, so the core now supports that. So in order for the adapters to support that, so adapters have to implement some of the commands in order to allow that, because currently it's mostly bulk updates that is available. So they will need to implement some of their. So there are two functions that they need to implement, and add in a remove one, and also I mentioned that I will need to open one for PONSIM, and because PONSIM also doesn't support that. In the adapter, I just stop the code, but I need to make the changes in the actual PONSIM itself to support add and removal of unique flows. But this change here, this is in the core, so that's that.
Okay. Any questions for Ken? All right, and that one, you said it is complete, so I'll move that one over to the done column as well. Thank you for that. And then I'll do a quick check on the remaining to-do items. We did briefly talk about the tasks that were related to the work Ken's doing. And so let me move down here. 484. Do we have a MIT on? Okay, so Girish is on. So we did have a comment a little bit ago that this needed to be retested with the new BAL releases and then some additional work here. So Girish, do you know if this one is expected to be picked up in sprint 2 at this point?
Yes, I'll try working on that, but I'm not sure I'll be able to finish it in sprint 2.
Okay, okay. And then 295. Oh, this one is for you also. So this is the edge core adapter support for multiple OLT.
I have a fix for this one. I'll try and finish this in sprint 2.
Okay, so this one, if you have a fix, should I move it to in progress?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then, Chip, we do have a few of yours that are in the to-do state. And so I know you were waiting while you were getting the in-progress items done. Any updates on the status for the OMCI-related items in to-do column?
Those will probably roll to Sprint 3. I know the 706 definitely will.
Okay. Let me add a comment here. Oh, we already have that comment in. Sorry. All right, then 733. This one is for Jono. Let me see if they have an update here.
This hasn't been started yet.
Okay. So is this one likely?
Yeah, it'll probably move to the next sprint.
Okay. Thank you. And then Keita, for 814, I think you had some questions related to whether or not this was required work for this, and you had some comments you'd posted on VOLTHA discuss. Anything we need to talk about for 814 today?
This task is just for emulating the complex behavior of all these and all using BBSIM. However, at this moment, this is not necessary to implement to BBSIM because the current behavior of BBSIM is just simulating the controls message response. So I think I will finish this task at the next sprint. Does it make sense?
Yes. Okay. Any questions for Keita? All right. Thank you for that. I think that takes us through the status for the issues in Sprint 2. Any other questions from the group on any of the open issues today? Okay, let me go back to the agenda then. And we've got about 10 minutes left. So I think what I did want to have some time to talk about 908, but I think first priority may be to go back to this discussion item for the proposal to move core to Golang. So Ken, do we have enough time with 10 minutes left for you to discuss that with the group?
No, the real thing I wanted to talk about, it's maybe it was not communicated correctly before, but in 2.0 the core will remain in Twisted Python, and most of the decision was made because we're looking at feature complete date beginning of August. But now looking at all the other features that we want to have in 2.0, like in the list that you had in previous meeting, do we still foresee that will be feature complete end of August, or is like first week of August, or are we seeing like we'll get like maybe a month or two extra to be feature complete? The reason why I'm saying that, it's because of the amount of changes that we are doing in the core. My preference would be to do everything in Golang. Because of that will require much more time than what we have allocated at this time. So if there's at least 2 additional sprints, then we can consider moving things directly into Golang, because Twisted is great. Like don't get me wrong, it's great, it's fast, but Golang does multi-threading better. And that's the direction in any case we want to go eventually, even post 2.0. If we don't do it now, we'll do it later. So it's on the roadmap. So if we can do it, if we have extra sprint and do it now, that will be better.
Yes. So Sean, I'll let you weigh in here as well if you want. So we've been working trying to find a release date for this. I think the target we've heard requested from various parties was a release date in September. And so that will likely not allow everything to be completed. And we already kind of knew that from the planned adapter work for the edge core. But if we target end of September, that would give us 5 development sprints. So we've got 3 more remaining. Let me go back to this slide now. And so that would put roughly the last development sprint around the middle of August. And then we would go into the integration testing in the Kubernetes cluster, and then the final sprint would be the hardening sprint. So development work we'd expect to go through sort of mid-August. And that's if we can meet this date. So it's beyond the August that you were talking about a little bit in terms of release date, but most of that additional time is taken up for integration testing and hardening.
Yeah, if we keep with the August date, and then we'll stick with Twisted Python.
Okay, okay. So then I think, let me go back to, Sean, I think you're on mute.
What does it mean? So we stay with Python right now, and you're saying maybe later on, you know, maybe 3.0, let's say, become Golang. Would that be another phase of the destruction for the
No,
core?
it won't. No,
it won't. Okay.
In that case, it won't, because what happened is like you'll have the core running still in Twisted, and then we'll just create another microservice that will be, everything will be in Golang, and then we'll just eventually we'll just like
switch over
using the other one. So all the interfaces to it will remain as is.
Okay.
It just like would be a different microservice. That's all.
And I guess I can do the homework myself and see what's the pros and cons of the Golang versus the Twisted Python. I guess.
Well, just briefly, it's Twisted Python. It's great, but it's one single event loop. Means it's
a single thread.
It's a single threaded model.
Yeah.
It's super fast. It's very fast. It's very good. But Golang allows you to do pure multi-threading, and one of the biggest advantage that I've seen with Golang is all the libraries that comes with it, especially libraries, for example, with the KV store like etcd or console. They seem to be more robust than the one in Twisted Python. So in Twisted Python, we had to put a lot of wrapper on it, but in Golang, it seems to work like flawlessly. So it's and also the size of the code of Golang is much smaller. When you want to put it in the container, it's quite small. Yeah. So and it's fast. it's a compiled language, so it's fast.
Well, and there's another aspect to it as well. So certain companies don't want to actually open source some of their proprietary stuff. They can easily, in a Golang world, submit a library, right? You say, you just compile against this. Here's your prototype, and then they can keep the proprietary stuff proprietary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a bigger tent approach.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a specific vendor I'm referring to. But yeah. I mean, it would get them back to the table, right?
Yeah.
So some of that's politics.
That can also be achieved by containerization of the adapters, where vendors keep their container code, adapter code, in whichever language they want to do it.
Yes, actually, exactly right.
So Ken, based on 3 more development sprint. So right now, going into Golang is not feasible, right?
No, it won't. It's because there's if we want to have something that is solid by mid August, definitely it won't if we go Golang right now.
Okay. So that's what it said, right? It is So, but as you said, if we later on create a different microservice and then just swap things over, then that should be okay. So
yeah, that should. Yeah.
Okay. Julie, I think we have come to a decision here.
Yeah. So, and then one thing I can point out, we are considering looking at a 2.1 since we know that right now we have some scope items that would not complete in 2.0 when we were looking at our schedule. So, Ken, you could also consider when we get closer to this time frame, a 2.1 may be an option as well, depending on what we have for the timing of that dot release.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll look at the timing.
Yeah. Okay.
The last Shad and Jono, is that okay to put off the Golang to the post 2.0?
Oh yes. I mean, this is a decision that Ken should be making with the timelines, but yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Chip? Okay. And then, okay. And Girish? Okay.
Okay. And that probably could be.
Raghu, what are you saying?
I have one question maybe to the Ken. Since we are using so many open source components and other things, do we have any performance or capacity baseline which is defined for VOLTHA servers that may choose when we select any components? That's what I was just asking.
Like a baseline to choose which libraries to use? Is that what you kind of
performance or capacity requirement which is defined for the VOLTHA? I'm just asking, is there anything which is there so that we should not get any surprises later that it doesn't meet?
Yeah, for sure. Like, well, that's we're trying to figure out like what the performance of the VOLTHA cluster is at this time for 1.3. But based on that, we should also try to. It would be good to get some performance expectations for what we want in 2.0.
Yeah.
And I think that will come from after the performance report. What we're going to show next week. Maybe after that, we'll have to build up with what we should expect in terms of performance for 2.0.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I think the single thread versus I would assume multi-thread definitely much will achieve better performance, right? So,
for sure.
So, yeah. So eventually, the twisted Python will be eventually issue. Maybe may not be by the end of the 2018, but for the wider deployment, it will not be sufficient for the deployment. Okay, Julie, back to you.
Okay, thank you. So I think with that, we're out of time. So just a quick summary of what we're looking for on Thursday. We'll be hopefully having a brief demo on BBSIM from Keita-san, and then also focusing most of our time on looking at Sprint 3 planning. So if there are remaining to-do items for Sprint 2, then we can get a quick recap of those on Thursday as well and see if they're likely to close out by Friday. But I believe we'll be spending most of our time on the planning for Sprint 3. That's my intent at this point. And we'll be extending it by 30 minutes again as sort of our going forward plan on the Thursday meetings until we get a little further along with the 2.0. With that, I'm out of time. So any
Thursday's 90 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So any other quick comments from the group before we drop the bridge?
Yeah, just me, Don. Do you have a few minutes I can give you a call, Julie, after this?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, I have a call at 9:15, so I've got about 14 minutes.
Okay, yeah, that'd be more than plenty.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Close the bridge. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Julie. Bye.